India's growth is exponentially rising, and it becomes essential that the full potential of its digital capabilities are realized and explored.
डिजिटल इंडिया सिर्फ एक नाम नहीं है, ये देश के विकास का बहुत बड़ा विजन है.
Amidst this, Times Network brought forth a platform for harnessing digital transformation. WhatsApp presents India Digital Fest. Future Begins Here showcase the power of digital technology to shape the future. Through specially curated sessions attended by government leaders and industry experts, the event brought forth the digital ability to surpass human imagination. In this episode, Deep Kalra, Chairman MakeMyTrip, is in an exclusive conversation with Mihir Bhatt, Managing Editor, Times Network, on the industry's preparedness for the immersive travel experience.
As you can see, our theme is Future Begins Here. And my first question is obviously, we want to understand, you are somebody who saw future of travel and how it will go online decades back. So what was your thought process when you actually ventured into online travel portal? Because till then this whole industry was completely fragmented. There were a lot of mom and pop shops, and it was quite unorganized. So the credit goes to you, and I think he deserves a huge round of applause for that. Deep.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, when you say decades ago, it does make me feel like a tech dinosaur. But how time flies, and we're talking about the decade ahead, which is a lovely term. So I started MakeMyTrip way back in 2000. And for me, the motivator at that point of time was fairly simple. At one side, it was to do my own venture. I'd worked with 3 different companies, ABN AMRO, AMF Bowling, and GE Capital. And I don't think I was entirely satisfied working for a company, although they were wonderful companies, but there was something inside which probably was driving me to do my own thing. But more importantly, it was an introduction to the internet, both formally and informally. So informally, those of you who were, I think, old enough to be tinkering around on the internet in maybe '99 in India, when Akhil's company had not really given us very fast broadband. So it was 128 Mbps, really slow connectivity, dial-up modems, that horrible noise and breakdowns, etc. all the time. So yeah, I think I was a child of that era. But even then, despite the painful experience of staying online, even then, it was clear that this is something which is going to change everything. It was like a huge force. There was something like which has not happened, at least in my lifetime. I was 30 then, and I was saying, this is amazing. It also afforded the opportunity of someone with probably little capital, because I was a professional from a service family, to do something, to dream of doing something of his or her own. And you could do it with little capital. Yes, venture capital was available way back then. Then we went through the drought of the dot-com bust, which is another story for another day. But those were the drivers. And why travel? My thesis at that point of time was things that are largely being transacted, products and services that are being transacted on the phone, are most likely to move online first. And so it was either online stockbroking for me or online travel. And maybe by training, I was closer to online stockbroking, but the heart and passion was in travel. And you never met your travel agent, maybe once a year on Diwali, but you called them up, they booked your tickets for you, they sometimes made reservations for you, someone came to pick up the check. And that was the way the business was transacted. That was ready for disruption. So yeah, we took that pioneering step way back in 2000. Yeah.
Right. Today, Deep, India is a huge success story in terms of, online transactions and the sheer number of people who are online, which is actually expected to cross 1.2 billion by the time we reach 2025. Standing here today, what is your sense? The new technology, 5G, 6G, AR, AI, how are they going to shape the future of travel and tourism industry?
I think we have to take one quick step back, and we have to firstly fully appreciate what is different about travel from other goods and services that are sold online. Firstly and most importantly, travel is perishable. So therefore, if today this hotel doesn't sell, let's say, 20% of their rooms, that 20% is gone forever. So there is incremental benefit in selling every last room and for an airline to sell every last ticket. Now, why doesn't that happen? Because why don't you get the cheapest tickets on the last day? We all ask, in fact, now there are questions in Parliament, why are tickets so expensive? It doesn't happen because big brands don't want to dilute their brand position. So, but they do it wisely, they do it smartly. The lowest prices are available either very early on or sometimes last minute for certain kind of brands who are quite happy to sell some tickets in the end last minute. So products are perishable. Secondly, travel products are not like any other products where they don't occupy a space in your house, whether on your kitchen shelf or in your bathroom shelf or in your cupboard or wardrobe. They're very different because they actually occupy a piece of your mind and time. So when people say, hey, when I'm going and buying something else, let's say on Amazon, on Flipkart, I might want to buy something travel. It doesn't happen. And we've tried it many times. It doesn't happen because you don't say, I'm buying a mobile phone, I'm buying a mobile phone cover, a charger, an aftershave, blah, blah. I need all of this. Oh, guess what? Nice ticket, let me buy it. It doesn't happen. You go and book a ticket or book a hotel room only when you're ready for travel and you commit to time. So these two things make the influence of technology very, very potent on travel. Till 1960, all airline tickets were manually done and there was no system. So the first GDS or Global Distribution System came up in 57-60 in the US. Imagine at that point of time, if you were booking a ticket, let's say on even Air India, from Delhi to London or Delhi to Bombay, and you were sitting in Calcutta while booking it, which could well happen, they had to make many calls to understand, do we have enough tickets available on my stock? And they could never be a perfect or an optimal solution. Technology changed that. Then more advances came in technology, but the biggest advance and the biggest impact really, I think, has been the web, the internet, and then of course, mobile phones, smartphones, and now we'll talk about AI, because fundamentally they have helped suppliers, again, airlines, hotels, railways, bus operators, car operators, to optimize and maximize the revenue yield that they can get on their perishable inventory. And that's most important. At the same point of time, the other stakeholder in the game is all of us as consumers to get the best deal, given the circumstance, what's happening, to get all the options as you see. Today it seems like pretty easy to do, but I can tell you building the first direct connect with an airline was one hell of a job. It took, I kid you not, close to 6 months to convince Air Deccan, which was the first low-cost carrier that we tied up with way back again in I think 2004, 2005, to convince them to give inventory through a direct connect because they actually didn't know what that was. And I remember sitting with Captain Gopinath, convincing him about these plans. After 20 minutes, he told me, I have to tell you, I was drawing on the whiteboard. He said, I haven't understood a word of what you've said, but let me call my CTO in and I'll give him the go-ahead to do what you want to do. And then the next one took several weeks, and then finally it became a cookie-cutter model. But fundamentally now these airlines could optimize yield and could hope to optimize revenue as well. Similarly with hotels going online. So technology's impact, what has happened in the past is huge, but what's going forward is also going to be quite amazing. And as we get into the new exciting realm of the stuff that you guys are talking about today, which is data science, which I think is the bedrock really, data science and machine learning, which is the bedrock of what we use today, AI, which is obviously the most exciting term around.
Deep, what is this about, the whole focus about sustainable travel and sustainable industry, especially the travel and tourism industry? Do you think the use of latest technology can actually help and speed up that process? Because there are a lot of people who are talking about it nowadays.
So firstly, I think sustainable travel is today not a cool thing, a fashionable thing, a nice thing to talk about. It is a dire need. It's a dire need for India because just like I said, the places that are most popular have got completely overheated. There's a concept called carrying capacity. We have far too many people traveling there in season and therefore putting a tremendous pressure on resources. So whether it's water there, the structures that are coming up there, little unplanned, very risky. Even the roads, the pollution during peak season, even in places like Manali, forget Shimla and Nainital and North Goa, has really become terrible. So you have to think about what we are doing. So we have to go to different places. But more importantly, we have to ensure that our footprint there as a tourist is done in a sustainable manner, which means all stakeholders, including the suppliers there, the small hotels, the homestays. We have to think about sustainability, which is, are we genuinely going green or is this lip service? And therefore, we are finding a lot of younger travelers, particularly 30s and below, actually being acutely aware of this and choosing greener options. So that is happening, and we are seeing that through our tech platforms. So tech has a role to play. I don't think it's that straightforward. First big role to play is awareness. People are not even aware of which are the places which are green or not green. So when let's say you've decided to go to Goa, there needs to be a sort order, and we have actually experimented with that in the past, which can sort not on price, not on star rating, not on reviews, not on distance from beach, but also on how green is that property. That's beginning to happen in many places. We experimented with it. We are looking for a good third-party accreditation because it has to be neutral. Customer reviews can be overlaid on that. I think that's a big need. Similarly, there's a big need, as I'm not sure we're aware of, a concept of green fuel, green aviation fuel. So a lot of airlines now are looking at a more expensive option, but a sustainable option. There's one small airline in Europe and Scandinavia which has gone completely green, using only green fuel. And they are finding that, yes, it's more expensive, but a lot of people, particularly Europeans who are, I think, maybe more evolved in this aspect, are already opting for it and happy to pay 10 to 15% more for the same ticket. That's a big deal. But to say we traveled green, therefore my carbon footprint is actually much, much lower than what it would have been. So people are getting that kind of consciousness. In India, it's being led by two cohorts, and there's a big overlap between them. One, the youth, like I said, and the second, the digital avant-garde, and they are also the youth. So there's a massive overlap between the two, and they are the ones who are actually, I think, not only aware, but giving a thumbs up and actually putting their money where their mouth is. Our job as a platform is to do that aggregation, that sorting, that selection, so that people can make a more informed choice. I'll give you a small example. So way back, I think 16 years ago, we launched something which many of you who've used our platform would have seen, where we said, help offset your carbon footprint by taking this trip, by contributing to maybe one tree or more trees, but as low as 5 rupees, which now goes to the MakeMyTrip Foundation, which works with 5 or 6 different NGOs on the ground, like Seva Mandir in Udaipur, Tata Trust in Uttarakhand. We're working on a very exciting project in Andamans, where we've built water ATMs already last 3 years, where people don't have to use plastic bottles, but can refill the bottles given to them. And people, 18 to 19% of Indian customers contributed that 5 or 10 rupees for a greener tomorrow. So I'm actually very enthused with the kind of reaction people have had and happy to put money in for that. And that has helped us. We've planted now with that money and our own company support 1.2 million trees with Seva Mandir largely, which is already done, and more. This is happening. We're doing a project in Ladakh with Sonam Wanchuk's foundation, which is around Miyawaki plantation. And we're doing this water ATM project in Andamans, as well as working with Waste Warriors and Tata Trust in Uttarakhand, in Sahasradhara, for solid waste proper disposal and management of the same. So I am finding that people are quite ready, and our job as a tech platform is to give those options.
Right. Coming back to technology, one is obviously the immersive travel experience, or the way people can easily access things online and maybe take a better decision in terms of where they want to travel. The second part is, how is technology helping companies like yours in building better customer experience pre and post travel, and also in terms of customer services through technologies like, let's say, chatbots?
Yeah, and that's really the most relevant, I think, for today's discussion. And indeed, it's been game-changing in terms of many features that we are able to do, which we couldn't have done before. Machine learning was a reality, data science was a reality, and now AI is entirely a reality. And I'll give you examples of some, and they have to be win-win. it has to work for both our stakeholders, which is ultimate consumer, all of us, and then our supply partners, which is airlines, hotels, bus, etc. So I'll go by, let's say, airline. So airlines are telling us all the time that, listen, help us kind of maximize our yield. We want to sell the last seat on every flight, but we won't want to discount very heavily. Customers, on the other hand, are telling us all the time through surveys and otherwise that, listen, how do I protect myself against these crazy fare spikes? Or when is the best time to buy? So it's no different from the stock market. Nobody knows the best time to buy. But through technology, we can give you two different things. One is fare lock. So fare lock is a feature, as the name suggests, where you can lock into a particular fare, which is pretty exciting today. If the fare goes lower, you get the advantage of that fare. If the fare goes higher, you don't have to pay the high amount because you paid a tiny premium right now, and we're talking about really tiny amounts. How that is possible at the back end is purely by data science. So we look at various factors, one of them being how early did you book? What is the history of fare spikes on that particular route? How many other airlines are planning to come in there sometimes? And what is the history of this customer actually? Also, how often do they change? So fare lock, and the second one is zero cancellation, where again, by paying a tiny amount, you can lock a zero cancellation fare. This actually got built during COVID because a lot of people rightfully were saying, we're not sure we'll be able to travel. We're not sure it'll be safe to travel, or I might be unwell, etc. So if your plans are tentative, then that is a very good option to go to. Again, both of them only possible because of these technologies behind. The third one becomes what I call connected trip or cross-sell. So if you booked a flight, you're sitting in Delhi, you're going to Bangalore, at the right point of time, it makes a lot of sense to give you a very good offer for booking a cab to the airport. 80% of people in India actually book cabs to go to the airport. 20% have someone leave them, either their own car and driver or a friend or family or whatever. 80% book cabs, and then of course there's metro. So that 80%, you have to give a very good offer. And the beauty of the cab offer that we can give, of course there's Uber and Ola, is that is seamlessly tied up with your flight. So if your flight is delayed, that gets delayed automatically. If your incoming flight is delayed, they are already informed about that, so you don't have to, panic. Also, you beat rush hour. We've all seen what happens in rush hour when you end up at an airport. Flights, basically there's a huge waiting, your cab keeps cancelling out. We found that to be very popular. And also offering hotel deals, which hotels are willing to give only to customers who have shown distinct intent to travel, which is an actual flying customer. So Bangalore hotels will give us very good deals, not to display on the site, but to offer only to people who have actually taken a flight to come to Bangalore, because then they know that they're offering a genuine customer and they're not diluting their brand. So we are finding that also to find a lot of traction. For hotels, hotel ranking is now entirely based on your customer intent that you've shown us. So we have a huge repository we are building all the time of data of customer intent, which is much larger than customer buying. So only about 10% of people who come actually buy something, 90%, but they demonstrate intent. They show us what they searched for, they look at the prices, where they exited. All of that can be bundled together, therefore to show you next time when you come, only relevant hotels. So if you have chosen largely 5-star hotels in your last 8 searches, for us that's telling us something, right? We should next time have the skew much higher. Even last 2 searches is enough for have the skew of 5-star more. Similarly, if you have traveled very often, you typically travel with family, then we have to show you places which are like family-like hotels. But if you travel on business and you're a consultant and you do Delhi, Bangalore, 8 a.m. in the morning, and you come back on Friday, leave on Monday, typical consultant lifestyle, then we actually have a feature which is flights you prefer, trips you prefer. So what you have preferred, then your conversion becomes very quick. We also have a feature which is quick book. So for the frequent business travelers, that quick book means you can get done in less than a minute and get done. All of this is getting powered like this. For rail, there's a very exciting product which people don't really know, which is a cancellation product, which we actually call Trip Guarantee, which basically says if you book a ticket which is waitlisted today, and if that waitlist doesn't get confirmed when the chart is prepared, we give you 3 times the amount. Why 3 times? That enables you to either go to a premium class which might be available, so upper class in the train, or cab if it's a short distance, or flight. And we are finding a lot of people converting for that. So you can rest assured, book it even it's on waitlist and take away the anxiety. A lot of work also on post-sales is happening where we've automated these flows. So yeah, very, very exciting times. And you know what I'd love to share with you is what's happening today with AI, which the new model on AI, which we are all aware of, is generative AI, right? This generative model is heady. And the things it can do to summarize very intelligently the reviews you're getting, not in tabular form, but in a very easy to understand form, to help us build content in a very interesting manner. So we're building core capabilities, but we will work with the leading players for this.
Right. One last question, Deep. One is obviously the rebound that we saw in the travel industry post-COVID, that seems to be sustaining. What is your take on that? And secondly, because, allow me the liberty to call you a startup then, because you actually started your company when the term itself was not coined, at least in India, right? The startup universe has been going through a churn, and it has seen valuations drop, and we have seen layoffs and all. So what is your outlook on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The rebound or the revenge travel, and many terms given, is heartening for all of us to see. It's real. Today, almost every domestic player in travel in India is saying we have now recovered more than 100% of pre-COVID. But, you know, it took a long time. It completely devastated the industry. And, you know, there was no travel, as we know, for that first quarter, which I shudder when I think about what happened 3 years ago on this date, literally. So things have changed a lot. I think people have come back. We believe it's going to be, very steady, at least on a secular growth. There will be some ups and downs. There will be blips. I think people have learned to live with it. Can India do better? I spoke about it. Undoubtedly, we can do better. But the beauty, the silver lining that COVID taught, at least the travel industries in India, is to firstly automate a lot more of your post-sale processes, because you couldn't afford to have people doing this. Also, to prepare better, the standards and the SOPs that are put in place today for hygiene, for health, for care and safety are much, much better. And then I think we had a lot of time, which was almost forced pause, to build a lot of these products around tech. So I think it really did. There are silver linings to it, and we are thankful for that. I think the startup winter, which we are talking about, or the funding winter that we're talking about, is a reality, but it's going to be short but sharp. And today it's not only because of the overheated part of it, but now we have the banks crisis, not just in the US, but also in Europe, which, really exacerbates most of this. But I've seen cycles now being shorter, sharper, and it'll come back. There is no doubt in my mind that the next probably 2 decades, or decades as you call it, belong to India. It's ours to lose. And especially on the digital side, I think India is just going to come out shining in all quarters.
On that note, Deep, thank you so much for joining us. And I think that's a very bright future that you have portrayed, that next 2 decades belong to India. Thank you so much.